We are back. It's like a year later.
Since the last time I was here.
Since the last time you recorded.
When we were doing basketball teams.
Yeah, we were drafting basketball teams. This was on a Sunday afternoon, I think.
Yes.
And then we had this great discussion, which we got some feedback on, about Calvinism.
Did you?
And Arminianism.
Everyone decided that I was correct.
I think they decided you were correct. That it's not the most important thing.
Oh, okay.
To talk
well,
about.
that's what I meant.
So that was Sunday.
I think so.
And then Saturday, I think it was just 6 days later.
Right.
We got a horrible call that you had been in a bad farming accident.
Was it? Okay, now I see what you're saying now. So that it was only a week after we had done that.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know that I watched that recently.
Yeah.
Because after you asked me to do this again, and I said, well, look, I've got both legs in that. So I couldn't remember if I did or not.
Yeah, so we got a prayer. I think it was just a text that went out on the WBC prayer chain. Probably you were already en route or there by the time it got that far.
Oh, you think so? Was it in the morning?
Oh, it was in the morning.
Oh, yeah. I know what time. Well, I don't know what time it happened, but I sent a text to my dad and my brother at 8:54 a.m.
Yeah.
I know that.
So I think we found out around 10 or so.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if I would even have been at the hospital yet or not. I don't know.
Okay, it's hard to keep track. Well, as you may or may know, this is Brian Coles. Needs no introduction, but I will introduce him. That's always funny when people say, this man needs no introduction, and they spend 5 minutes introducing him. But we're going to be doing a two-part interview about the accident that happened a year ago. So we're recording this on June 10th.
It happened on the 8th.
And it happened on the 8th. Yes. So your 1 year anniversary for the accident was just 2 days ago, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, so you may remember that one of the time-honored traditions we have for our guests is that they have to say the magic words to get us out of the banter time and into the official time. Do you remember what they are?
Do we need to take it to the next level, or
I think that's
something?
What we need to do.
Let's do that.
From the hearts of the Low Country in South Carolina,
it's the Take Two podcast, where we take theology to the next level.
All right, so farmer extraordinaire.
I'm not sure about that, especially nowadays.
We actually got to farm together some.
Yes, we
back
did.
in the day.
Yeah, back in high school days, I guess, or college.
It was
maybe?
college. It was
college?
in between my sophomore and junior years, I believe, of college. Farmed, and I remember walking by a granary. I think it was the Lindsay Bins.
Okay.
And there was this canonical pit.
Yeah.
And your dad said, if that thing's running, don't ever get close to this pit.
Oh, right. It's dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
That's right.
So you've been farming for a number of years.
A long time. 1998 is when I got out of college, but I did it the whole time I was growing up, too.
Yeah. So. And it takes a math degree to farm, right?
It does. That's as soon as I got my math done, I came back home to the farm. Turns out I didn't know what I was wanting to do. Yeah. But I ended up farming. I've been there ever since.
And so this was like a normal day.
Yes, it was. I was harvesting wheat, and I was getting ready for the next day. We needed to clean the machine out because we were changing varieties of seed. We were actually growing wheat for seed production, and that means it needs to be completely pure from the previous variety we had been harvesting.
And this is something that you probably had done.
I've done it at least every year once, probably more than once every year for the past 25 years or longer.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
your mic is slipping down. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
I had to just, I can just tell. Yeah, just give it a push. I don't know. There you go. And so, do you remember anything specific going on that morning before?
Well, it's a job nobody likes to do. These machines are large and they don't clean out on their own very well. So you have to take quite a bit of time with air compressor and a wand and blow out stuff that doesn't come out on its own. It's very dusty. You get it all in your face and everything else, and it takes a long time. It's just a real pain. Nobody likes to do it.
And I was thinking water, but it's air.
No, it's air, because if you used water, the stuff would get all sticky and sprout and everything like that.
You don't want to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you had like a big air.
Yeah, it was long, 3 or 4 feet long, with the air compressor with a line running down to the ground. The truck, I say down to the ground. A lot of the work is done on the ground, but where I was actually hurt was up on top of the machine.
So this is where I'm assuming. I was never farming during the harvesting season. I was pulling levees,
Right.
disking,
And planting, maybe?
Did some planning. Did quite a bit of planning.
Yeah.
I did some planing.
Yes, yeah. Lots of
And-
field work.
Yeah, a bunch of field work, but I never did any. And we did some water work. Pulled levees in the beans. I think the year I was working was the first year y'all used polypipe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we still using it. That's a kind of that's a hassle as well.
Yeah.
Hot work. Yeah.
So those are some. So I never. So, but I'm assuming that this area is like the central place that seed goes in when you're combining, and then like if you see, lots of times you see these pictures in these 10,000 acre fields in Iowa where they're combining corn, and you have these combines and you have a truck running through it. I'm assuming
Right.
this is the area that the seed initially goes to after it's combined, and then this auger is what would shoot it out to a truck behind it, or no?
Well, there's a tank that holds about 300 or 400 bushels of grain, and as you go through the field and pull the grain in, it separates the grain from the husks and puts it in this tank. And what you're talking about seeing is, if you get full, you swing the auger out and drop it on a truck or a grain cart or something else like that. And that is where I was up in this tank, which is large. It's right behind the cab, and it's the top of the machine. And that doesn't clean out all the seed just by running the auger. So I'm blowing the seed to get it to that spout where it can go out. We were just dropping it on the ground. We're just cleaning out what was left behind. And the way that it falls in there, it's a large tank, and there's 2 horizontal augers that carry it to a certain place, and then it goes up and out that spout.
So is there like a main auger in the bottom, but some horizontal augers?
There's 2 horizontal augers in the bottom, and they go to a vertical auger.
Okay.
That they carry the grain to a vertical auger, which sends it out to the truck.
And all this whole area is sloped.
It is sloped, yes. And it is sloped. Now, the augers have cover over them, but there's a gap because it has to get the grain out.
Yeah.
So, and nowadays, this equipment is a lot larger than it was 25 years ago when I first started doing this. And I've often wondered if that gap that lets the grain fall into the auger would have been wide enough back in those days when I first got out of college to fall into. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that these larger machines, they can carry more grain, and they unload it quicker, so the gap is large enough for my foot to go into it. And yes, the sides are sloped, and also it had begun to sprinkle a little bit. And I can't tell you for certain what happened.
So you don't remember minutes leading up to it or anything like that?
Oh, I remember I'm doing the work. I really don't have any memory gaps and I never lost consciousness. So I remember everything. It's just, I'm just doing what I always do.
Right. It's just like
and I just know that at some point I slipped and my foot falls into this gap.
And this is the gap between the horizontal auger and the ground and
the floor. Well, the gap would be, there's a cover over the auger, but there's a gap to let the grain fall into it.
Yeah.
And so I fall in there. My foot goes into where the auger's running. And by the way, this is not something you're supposed to be doing. There are safety features on the combine where if you're not in the seat, it can't be running, or it will only run for 5 seconds or something. So we actually have a person sit in the seat There's a ladder on the back of the machine that you have to climb up to get up here. That ladder has to be folded up or it won't run. And all over the place, every year, farmers are doing this thing that I'm doing, breaking the rules, breaking the safety rules, having somebody sit in the seat, and go in here and blow this, save some time to clean this out. Our farm will never be doing it this way again, and honestly, I doubt that anyone in my county will do it again. I've heard that comment from several people because, yes, we've all done it.
Yeah.
And it's farmers do dangerous things, and it turns out sometimes we do foolish things, and that's what happened. After all this time, 25 or 30 years of doing this, now I slip in there, possibly because of the rain. It wasn't a rain, but there was sprinkle. I don't know if I stepped on a wet spot and slipped, like you said, the side is sloped. But I fell down, and my foot goes in there, and this machine pulls me towards the vertical auger for a short time, and then it turned loose. And when it turned loose and I pulled my leg out, I saw bone, and it was disgusting, and it was terrifying, and my reaction was a considerable time of screaming and banging on the window for my son to turn it off. I could see the knot of my ankle bone, the knot on the side.
The round part?
Yes. I could see that exposed. So just like in a war movie, when you see somebody get their leg blown off, I had about that same reaction. I am shocked and terrified, and it's natural. I'm just screaming, and it's, not on purpose. It's just happening,
Yeah.
And I immediately try to climb out of there. Now this tank is, if I'm standing in the bottom of it, you could see my head, but it's a large tank. And it's got a couple of steps and rails to climb out, which I did climb out. But I climbed out with a foot missing, and I remember going to put that foot down and realizing I couldn't use it. I was pretty wound up, so I didn't have any trouble getting out, but it was arms and one leg and desperation.
So how many people were there with you at this
There was
scene?
two. There was one in the cab. That was my son, Samuel, my oldest. He's about 22 at the time. And another young man, South African worker, that's only was about 20. And he was on the ground doing something, maybe some other cleaning. I'm not sure what he was doing. But he was probably cleaning out his grain cart, because we have to clean every piece of equipment out. So I think that's what he was doing. So I did have someone with me. And so when I get out of the tank, there's a large flat place behind this hopper, which is where the engine is. It's a large engine.
Yeah, I saw you post a video
Yes.
recently on YouTube
Standing
from
on
that spot.
top of it. I don't know
You
how
mind
tall.
lifting your mic up again, sorry.
I don't know how tall the machine is, but it's one of the larger machines that we use, and this is at the very top of it. But the engine is large, and it's got to be covered, to keep stuff out of it. So there's a large flat place, and that's where I went to sit down sat down, and I took my belt off because I've seen TV and I know what I have to do. Actually, I should mention, now that I'm out and I'm standing upright, I see muscles hanging out, I see that bone, and I see blood flow at a rate that changed my life. It shocked me and terrified me, and at that moment I realized that there was a significant chance that I would not survive. I'd never seen blood flow like that. I told one time I was speaking at the church, and I I referenced the verse in when God is telling Noah that people who murder other people will be put to death because of, that's not, I'm saying the wrong thing. It's when
Get out of the ark.
he's
He
telling
says
Noah not to eat blood. He's telling Noah not to eat blood because the life is in the blood. And my life was flowing out of me at an alarming rate. And so I knew from TV that I had to stop that. That was my only hope. Is the train going to bother us?
No, the train's
All right.
fine. I
So-
think we'll edit it out. It's fine.
So I knew that the only thing that mattered at the moment was to stop the blood flow. I was wearing a belt, and I tied it around my leg twice, because the first time I did it, I ran the loop through the buckle like you would put it on, and I didn't feel like that was good enough. So I tied it in a knot, and that was all I could do. So I'm sitting there thinking there's a pretty good chance that this is my final hour, and I've done what I could do. So that's when I turned to God. And it's interesting, to me at least, I didn't ask him for my life. I wanted to live. It was my daughter's birthday. I had a son about to leave to go on a vacation with some friends. I've got 10 kids and a wife at home. I wanted to live, but all I said to God was that my life and my soul is in your hands. And that's all that I said. And then I sent the text to my dad and my brother, who farmed with me and who knew where I was. And the text at 8:54 on Saturday morning said, "Ambulance now, I might die." And my dad got that text as he was trapped behind a train 20 or 30 minutes away. I'm not sure where my brother Michael was. He got there pretty quick, but it was up to them to call 911.
So Sam or the other guy hadn't called 911 yet?
I think they had. I don't know. I think that Samuel called them, called my dad and Michael. He was a little hysterical. But I don't know if he called them before he came and got me down or after. Probably after would be my guess. So that means they had probably called first. I thought for the first time this week or last week, well, why didn't I call 911? That's the first time. It's a year later, and I think, well, why didn't I do it? And then pretty quickly I realized why. It's because I thought that I might be about to die. I didn't know how much consciousness I had left, and I called my wife. And that's the only phone call I made. I sent the text, and then I called my wife and apologized for being such a bad husband and told her I was hurt and that I didn't know what was going to happen, but that I loved her and for her not to come out there. And that was all the communication. I didn't send any more texts, or I didn't know how much longer I would be awake. My son Samuel showed up. He climbed up there and carried me down to the ground. It's 10 feet off the ground.
So this is, you're out of the hopper.
I'm out of the hopper.
You're on the platform.
On
and
top
he's carrying
of
you from the platform to the ground.
Top of the engine platform.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of steps down to another level, and then there's a ladder down to the ground. And he first had to get the ladder down, which we had was difficult to do, but he was determined. And he carried me down from there without dropping me. And even this is, I don't know how that happened. he's not any bigger than I am. He's younger and strong, but
He doesn't have 25 years of farming strength.
no, not like that. And he carried me down to the ground, and I wasn't dropped. I didn't fall. That's a miracle in itself. Now, when I got to the ground, Samuel, my son, wanted to throw me in the truck and run me to the hospital, and I knew that would be a mistake, that I hadn't stopped the bleeding good enough, and if I pass out, these boys, they did everything I told them to do, and they did a great job saving my life, but they didn't know what to do on their own, and they were wound up as well. They found me another strap to tie around my leg, and I remember telling them, because they were nervous about it, and I said, no, both of you pull as hard as you can pull, which they did, and essentially we basically stopped the bleeding, or they did. Later I had a police officer show up before the ambulance. He also had a tourniquet. I think when I arrived at the hospital, I had 3 different things tied around my thigh, and the bleeding was basically stopped. I made it, and I never lost consciousness, and I really feel like this could very likely be miraculous, because my blood count at the hospital was 7. I'm speaking of hemoglobin, when it's supposed to be 14. I used to say that meant I had lost half my blood. I looked up. I'm real worried that I'm going to exaggerate things. Right. So I started looking up, and I may not have lost 50% of my blood, but my blood count was
half of what it
was half of what it's supposed to be. So I didn't know if I would stay conscious, but I did the whole time until they put me out in the operating room. I was awake and alert. I didn't get fuzzy or anything.
So it
like
took
that.
you to Cersei?
Yes, that's another thing. I feel like I need a helicopter and to be going to Little Rock or Memphis. I'm very serious. That's got to happen. And no, there was a little rainstorm and the helicopters were grounded. And I find that out. And I don't know how long this was that I didn't know if I would live or not. But when I heard that news, I'm thinking, it just doesn't seem to be my day. I'm not going to get out of this alive. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, so you're at Cersei Hospital, and I'm guessing you go straight to the ER.
Oh, yeah, and they are waiting on me. There is a room full of shocked-looking people. The looks on those people's faces when they see me come in there is another thing that, now I feel pretty good about my chances now that I'm at the hospital.
You've made it to the hospital conscious.
I feel like I'm going to live now.
It's like you've made it past the corner.
But the look on those trauma people's faces, right, is like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. You know, that's what it looked like to me.
Joe
and it
always
was
says,
full.
if we're flying and the flight attendants seem okay,
Right.
you're fine. But if they seem like they're worried, then you should be worried.
That's
and you're
right.
saying basically you experienced the flight attendants looking worried.
I would say they did, or at least they looked like they hadn't seen this before, and that really surprised me. But I talked to many nurses during my 8 days in the hospital, and after, even then, they were like, "Man, I can't believe you made it," that kind of stuff. I made an impression at the hospital, but with the folks that saw me. Yes.
So, I remember, I think we were there for a week, and you were recovering. I think we were deciding.
Oh, you were still in town?
Yeah, we were still in town for the week after. We were trying to decide, do we go visit them? Because it's awkward being in a hospital and like everyone coming visiting you got like half your body showing and that. So we were like, ooh, I think I may have called you. I don't remember, and just said something.
I talked to a lot of people. I probably would have told you could come.
Yeah, you probably did tell us, but I was like.
Now, I was in the ICU for 2 days where you can only have 2 visitors at a time and stuff like that. So there are some people that saw me in those 2 days, though.
Yeah. So from there, I know that you had some ups and downs with the wound healing.
You mean after I was out of the hospital?
Right. Well, from while you were in the hospital, and then maybe like a couple months.
Oh, well, I had 5 or 6 surgeries, or I'll call them surgeries. The main surgery was amputation, but there was, they have to go back in and clean it. You know, it's a dirty accident. There's pieces of wheat and stuff in there. And they're very determined to get all of that out because I was in danger of infection. And I had some cultures grow infection, but it never got out of hand. They did a good job cleaning it out several times. I don't know how many times while I was in the hospital that happened.
Did they give you pain stuff for that, or did?
Well, I was out for
Okay.
that.
Okay.
It was that type of surgery.
Okay.
I didn't have. Every time the surgeon dealt with my leg while I was in the hospital, I was put under. The week or a few days after I got out was the first time that he unwrapped it with me being awake. So, but it's about the pain medicine. Yes, I was on a lot of drugs, and I was one of the nights in the ICU. I had a dream that I think must have been fueled by this. I woke up thinking I was had been in a war and was almost killed in an airplane, and I start trying to get up and get out and everything, and my wife was allowed to be with me, which is not normal. She was allowed to be with me, but she was a nurse that worked at that hospital, so that's part of the reason. And she got in my face and told me, no, you've been in an accident and all of that, and I knew that stuff was true, but that dream seemed so real, and I was so terrified that I was trying to get out.
And then from the wound healing, tell me about. So today you're wearing a prosthetic.
Yes.
And and probably some of the listeners know, but my dad also had his leg amputated, and the prosthetic thing never really worked for him. He tried it a little bit, but I don't know that he was as motivated,
right?
Because I think you have to be pretty motivated to get it to work.
Well, there's a lot of things that happen. It hurts.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, and you get discouraged, and all of those things. My circumstance was since it's a traumatic injury, and you're talking about surgeries on and nerves ripped away and things like that. I had a wound vac for 2.5 months. So that means the skin that I'm trying to put into this prosthetic is brand new. It's just a few months old. So it's extremely tender and difficult. It feels like to me it was a long process. But when I look back, I didn't get a prosthetic to try until the last week of November. And I could only wear it for a couple of hours every other day. And actually, I didn't even wear it every other day part of the time because it hurt, and I wanted it for Christmas, so for when the family was all in. So Christmas Eve was the beginning of the time that I wore it every day, and I've worn it every day since. Not the same one, but
yeah,
but
that was the other thing because Dad would wear it some. And then he would say it'd stop fitting because I guess your leg is changing because of the use. And so then you got to go get refitted for a different one. And it just seemed like it was a long process for him. It
can change during the day. Now mine, they told me I would have to have another one this year, but I seem to have leveled out on the shrinkage. At least I've been in the same size for 2 or 3 months now, which is unusual. It's very unusual. Normally, you're having to make adjustments for it to work, and probably that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And you might have to make an adjustment during the same day. For example, when I was going through that, you wear these socks to take up space, and you can put on more or less or take them off. And I would have more on at the beginning of the day and then take some off later on. So there's a lot of that goes on that's it could be a real hassle to someone. And there are a lot of people that are real discouraged and all kinds of things like that. And not that I wasn't. I just, yes, it takes some motivation. It takes some endurance, some pain, and you just need to really want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I think we will break off here, and we'll call this a good stopping point, and then tune in next Thursday for the second half of our interview with Brian, where we'll talk about maybe some of your reflections since this, and maybe change of career. I don't know, things things that you're thinking about. So, all right, so you know how to take us out of it too. Remember? Yeah.
No, I don't.
Oh.
That's our take.
Thanks for listening to Take Two. Find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube for those who want to watch our videocast.